name is Michael Hendricks. I'm a private pilot, and I wanted to talk a little bit about an accident I had 18 months ago. I posted a video on YouTube, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time, now that I've had quite a bit of time to process what's happened, go through some training. I wanted to talk about what happened and share my experience, what I've learned, and kind of reprocess that video, share, and hope that it can help other people avoid the mistake that I made. One of the things is it's very easy in the moment when something first happens to start shoving and saying all of the things that you think that are going through your mind when something first happens. I posted a video right after it happened, kind of trying to maybe vlog what was going on, and I think in some ways it did more damage than good. One of the things that I learned was, as a pilot, you're processing an awful lot, maybe 7 seconds that change an awful lot in your life, but it takes maybe a year to really process everything that happened in those 7 seconds. So while I posted and said, hey, this is where I'm at and this is what's going on, I posted what I thought. I said, I thought it was loss of tail rotor authority at the time. I was wrong, and I wanted to kind of come back and clean up and say, 18 months later, a lot of experience later, quite frankly, a lot of amazing dudes in the industry, a lot of amazing helicopter pilots that have shared their experience, their time with me, kind of coming back around and say, this is what I've learned, and this is what my takeaways were. So what happened that day was I had my family with me on my aircraft. We were landing at my father's, mom and dad's house, landing in a confined area. And as we descended below the tree line, I got quite a bit of mechanical turbulence coming off the tree line. And I was very paranoid about power that day. It was a hot day, high DA, and we were heavy, all four of us in an R-44, and we were just coming out, getting ready to go on a cross country. So we were pretty much at gross weight. We're about 50 pounds under gross weight. So I was pretty sensitive to the weight of the helicopter. Robinson, about a week before, had just released a service bulletin. And the service bulletin had discussed that there was a separation issue on the intake manifold of the R-44. The accident that led to the issuing of the service bulletin, the serial number was 11 serial numbers before my helicopter. So I had been watching this very carefully. I talked to my mechanic. He said, well, the service bulletin doesn't really affect your helicopter. We'll keep an eye on it. About 2 weeks after my accident, Robinson had actually expanded that service bulletin to include all our 44s and include my serial number as well within the 100 hours. So it wasn't a bad thing that I was aware of it. But in the case of that moment, I was a little too paranoid about power and too paranoid about what was going on in the engine. So when I got the mechanical turbulence as a low-time pilot, rather than trust the machine, I misread the controls, I misread what the aircraft was telling me, and I immediately chose to drop the collective. That was a conscious decision. I wanted to decrease the power on the helicopter and get it to the ground. We were 10 feet off the ground and had very little airspeed, and I was over a clearing where I could set the helicopter down and land. The right answer, I believe, was to shove in a whole lot of pedal. We had the pedal, I had the power, and I could have used it, and we could have put in the pedal and brought the helicopter down. I had the out-of-ground effect hover capabilities at the temperature, at the altitude. I could have hovered. So knowing now what I know, it should have been trust the machine and put in the pedal. And I think some of what led to the issue was some of the training was the terminology that we had used, such as power pedal, which made me apprehensive to take more power by using the left pedal. And now that I have a lot more experience, there's been some issues or some time since then where when you need the power, you put the power in and you take the power and you fly the aircraft. Fly the aircraft first. And that's one of the things they teach you is aviate, navigate, communicate. That was a time when I should have aviated first, trusted the machine, and gotten it down to the ground. I think one of the things that's really positive, though, about the way that they teach you to fly is, they really focus on the fact that being a pilot, it's a license to learn. There was a lot of things that went right. I was low to the ground, I had low inertia. There was a whole lot of things that could have gone bad except for all the other things that you're taught that were compensating controls. So we were low to the ground, we had low inertia, so when I lowered the collective and we got the aircraft to the ground, there was very little inertia that could have damaged, quite frankly, the most precious cargo I have, which is my family. We bent the skids and family walked away. The things they teach you, get it down on the ground level. If you get it level on the skids, let the skids take the impact, which all the training that my instructors beat into me, we got the thing down level on the skids. And lo and behold, sure enough, everyone walked away. So while I mishandled one thing, all the other things that I had been taught as a pilot, kicking in, came in behind and made sure that it saved me from my mistake. And I think that that's something that's important when they talk about the links in the chain, that I really appreciated that I had the opportunity to come and learn. And I think that's the last piece, which is, it's real easy as a pilot to pile on, but I feel like I'm very blessed to have the opportunity as a pilot to step away from my accident and come back around and learn from my mistake. I think we all learn every day from our mistakes, but it's very rare. Maybe it's not very rare, but I feel very blessed that as a pilot I get to have walked away from an accident, step back, learn from that accident, and move on and use that as a building block in my career. I see a lot of BS on social media, pilots and everyone piling on, but I really feel that from the very first days of aviation, our industry was built on the blood and sacrifices of pilots who made mistakes, good dudes who made mistakes so that we could learn and be here. I'm fortunate that I was able to learn from my own mistake and that I was able to move on and do better from what I did, and that it's not just something buried in a report somewhere that other guys are going to be able to learn from it, but that I actually get to take my mistake and learn from it. And I think it's an important thing that sets aviation aside from other industries and from other activities, is that as pilots we're always continuing to improve, we're always continuing to train, we're always continuing to push ourselves. It's why I wanted to share this video. It's why I wanted to correct some of the things I had said. It's why I hope that maybe what I've done, what I learned, can share. Everyone's quick to say it's a license to learn. You got your private pilot's license, it's a license to learn. But then sometimes we're a little shy to share some of the lessons we've learned along the way. If a pilot shares something on social media and says, hey, I made a mistake, then we all pile on him and says, oh, what an idiot, what a moron, instead of saying, man, that could really help someone. We all have to be perfect pilots out there. And I think that it's important that we go back to some of our heritage and remember what brought us here, which is a lot of good dudes made a lot of mistakes that allow us to go do what we do every day here. And I have a lot of respect for that. Lastly, it really opened my eyes to an amazing community that I get to be a part of, and that's pilots in general, but helicopter pilots specifically. After the accident, it was really hard. I worked for 30 years to be able to go fly and to get to live this dream. And it would have been real easy to make a lot of excuses and say, well, I don't need to go spend a lot of money and go back and go do that. It would have been real easy to make every excuse under the sun not to get back on the horse. I had a lot of encouragement from my family, which I'm grateful for. Go train, keep training. The aircraft went back to the factory and for repair, and even that was an interesting experience because the Robinson certified, the Robinson dealer came out and inspected it and said, hey, it's some bent skids, bent landing gear. So at the time, it wasn't really a reportable accident from what we could tell, because there was no substantial damage to the aircraft, that it was a landing gear. So they took it, put it on the truck, sent it to the factory for inspection, but everything that was in the field inspection indicated that it was landing gear, and sent it to Robinson. Well, at the factory they found some damage to the main rotor gear bearing, and Robinson actually reported to the NTSB that there was damage to the helicopter. So I'm getting a call from the NTSB saying, why didn't you file an accident report? We have evidence of damage. And I'm saying, well, I didn't have evidence of damage. Robinson, when I called Robinson for evidence of the damage, they said, hey, wait 13 weeks for your report from us. And so I kind of got trapped between the NTSB and Robinson, and we worked that out. But it was kind of, as a new owner, a new operator, a new pilot, trying to work through all the bureaucracy. There was a lot there to work through. And meanwhile, I had a huge amount of help from helicopter pilots, other owners, other pilots, a huge amount of help from the industry, and it was amazing. And there would have been a whole lot of reasons to just throw in the towel and say, man, I screwed up. My family was with me. It was kind of a worst case scenario, nightmare scenario. But the amount of encouragement I received, I'm grateful for. And I can just go through, probably it's a countless list that I wouldn't be able to go through, the amount of people that helped me. But a few items stand out. On Helicopter Pilot Network, there was a lot of pilots that reached out on private message and shared their experience with me. Hey man, I screwed up, and hey, this happened to me, and shared personal experiences with me that showed me, hey, this is how I went on, and hey, we all make mistakes, and man, I did something dumb. That was really helpful, because as pilots, we all tend to put on maybe that bravado of, we all put on maybe that perfect machismo. A gentleman who runs a flight school near me said, hey, why don't you come pick up the helicopter, rent it, and come fly it. He says, why don't you park it in your yard for the night? He says, your kids need to see the helicopter in your front yard again. He says, it's been a while, kids need to be able to see the helicopter again. And I really appreciated that taking and helping my family get back around flying again, helping the kids see that it was something that was still part of our life. So the amount of outreach that I've had from pilots during the process to get back to the point where I was flying again, people really went out of their way. And that's something that I want to carry forward when I see other people that are struggling, or other people that are down, other pilots that are down. I want to make sure that I'm reaching out to them, sharing my experience, and taking what I know and sharing that with pilot. I think that we have almost a sacred right, or a sacred responsibility, to share what we know with other pilots. It's real easy to get caught up in how busy we are and forget how we got here. But it really taught me a lesson early on in my flying that, man, I wouldn't be here flying if it weren't for a lot of good dudes and a lot of good people that helped me and my family get here. And I'm really grateful for that. So I think one of the things that was a big takeaway was the amount of effort that goes in to helping a dude, or I gotta stop saying a dude. Oh, sorry, not woke enough. The amount of effort that goes into helping a pilot when they see someone hurting. And again, there's some trash talk and there's some shit throwing, but even if we bring up he who shall not be named 1TT, and I had a blast coming out flying and getting to fly the Huey. But when I look at what Mike Holbrook said to 1TT, and I look at what Justin said to 1TT, and I look at the number of people that took time to give guidance and talk truth and give that guy an olive branch and talk to him and try and help, genuinely help. It's real easy for us to sit around as helicopter pilots and you know, but even after you pick any major incident that happens, when something bad happens in our industry, it's amazing how quick our forum, the HPN forum, changes overnight, almost instantly. And we have some serious, hard conversations. And it's a cool place to be, and it's a cool thing to be a part of. And I got to experience a very small part of that, but I got to experience some really cool conversations around the hangar. It was like an old hangar beatdown. Trying to talk some truth into some people that needed it. And I think I'm hoping that even though this stuff's going more viral, I'm hoping that these things are happening, you know, around hangars still, and that they're still going on. You know, I'm getting to see them in my career, and you know, I'm hoping that the trash talking pilot who's turning in the guy who busted the Class Bravo in Nevada, or who busted the Class Bravo in Las Vegas airspace and is doxing him by doing Freedom of Information Act requests. I'm hoping that that's the exception, because what I've seen of the pilots who support each other and help each other out and are willing to fly into an airport and talk to a guy who clearly has some struggles and actually take time out of their day to try and help is amazing. And that's the community that I believe we're part of and that I want to be a part of. And I take it back to what Mike Holbrook said, which is, man, you dug a deep hole and a lot of people are throwing you shovels. I want to throw you a rope and I want to help you get out. And I want to be the kind of pilot that throws ropes and helps people out and helps people learn. And so I've really enjoyed the last year of learning and having people that have helped me come out of my hole and come out of my problem, my accident, and grow from that experience. And you know, there are always people who are like, well, you'll never fly again, you'll never work in this industry, and screw you. And I think that that's a really myopic and short-sighted view of the giants that make up this industry and the really cool people that we have in our industry. And I'm proud to be a part of this community.